This right here is a visualization of my Claude Cowork operating system. You can see in real time as it's building out parts of my business for me. Right here is my bookkeeper. Over here is my personal email assistant. This is running every part of my business and my second brain. A lot of people ask me how I'm able to produce so many videos so quickly. Well, this is how. And I want to help you set up a Claude Cowork OS just like this one. So what I've done is I've developed a simple 3-step process anyone can follow to get this up and running. This will be organized with your second brain. It will improve as time goes on, and it will include the workflows that will actually make a difference in your life. For purposes of this video, I'm going to show you how to set this up with Claude Cowork because I genuinely think it is currently the most powerful AI agent for non-technical people. However, I want to be fully transparent that Anthropic did reach out to sponsor this video. And since I already use Claude Cowork every day to run my business, I said, sure, why not? So full transparency there. If that sounds good to you, let me show you the most straightforward way to set up a Claude Cowork OS. Before we can jump into this, you need to understand what an agent operating system is and why it's different from using a regular AI chat like Claude Chat. This is Claude Chat. It's what everyone is used to. You ask it a question and it's going to give you a response back. That's great for simple one-off tasks, brainstorming, or asking random questions. The issue with this is that your knowledge base and what Claude Chat is creating for you exist in two different places. And as Claude works for you, that knowledge base doesn't grow or compound. An agent operating system fixes that because it works where you work. So if we switch over to Claude Cowork, you'll see that this can reach into your folders on your computer. It can read your files, edit them, create new ones, and carry out multi-step tasks from start to finish. And the more that you use this, the more context it's going to have about you, your work, or your business. And when it comes to how helpful an AI is going to be for you, context is now the most important thing. That's why creating a Cowork operating system is one of the best ways to use AI right now. The good news is if you already know how to use a chatbot like Claude Chat and you can organize a few folders on your desktop, you can easily set this up yourself. To access Cowork, you want to download and install the Claude desktop app. Once you do, make sure on the top you switch over to Cowork. Under that is the side menu. The button at the top says New Task. In Cowork, we don't have chats, we have tasks. If you look here, tasks look very similar to a regular AI chat, but there's one big difference. On this drop-down, you can select which folder on your computer you want Cowork to work inside of. So I set up a central Claude Cowork OS folder on my computer called FrankBot because I decided the name of my agent should be Frank for some reason. Opening up the FrankBot folder in my Finder, you'll notice that there are 3 different things in this: a claude.md file, a memory.md file, and a bunch of subfolders. The most important file here is the claude.md file. This is just a set of instructions for Claude that it will read every time it works in my OS. So when I come in here and start a new task, the first thing Claude Cowork is going to do is read that claude.md file. That's going to tell it how I want it to act, where to find things in this folder structure, what this OS even is, and how its memory system works. It's basically the instruction manual for itself. So after it reads that file, it will then read the memory.md file, which is basically a log of what we've done in the past. And then it will jump into one of the subfolders depending on what task I gave it. For instance, if I'm asking it to arrange some travel for me, it will jump into the travel subfolder. If I'm having it help me with my YouTube videos, it will go into the YouTube subfolder. I also have one here for business. And if you open this up, you'll notice that there are subfolders, one for bookkeeping, one for brand deals, and one for emails, for instance. And each of these have their own claude.md file as well. I also have a subfolder here called AI with Paul. This is where I plan out content for my online course. You can find more details about that in the description down below, but this exact Cowork OS system I talk much more in depth about in that course. The most important thing to understand here is that there's nothing magical happening here. This claude.md file is just a plain text document. You can open it up and read it yourself. and the subfolders just represent different areas of your business or projects you're working on. The best part is Claude Cowork is going to set this entire thing up for you. Start by creating that parent folder on your computer where you want your Cowork OS to exist. So I'm here inside the Documents folder. I'll create a new folder and I'll call this Cowork OS. Next, I'll have a link in the description down below. That's to this prompt that will instruct Cowork to set up your claude.md and memory.md files and your subfolders. So just copy down this prompt and come over to the Claude desktop app. Of course, make sure you're inside of Cowork and start a new task. Now here on this dropdown, you want to select the folder that you just created. So I'll click on this and I'll click down here where it says choose a different folder and then find the folder I just created. Here it is. Once it's highlighted, click on open. Claude will then ask if it can have permission to work inside of that folder. I'll click on always allow. Now you can paste in the prompt that you just copied and send it to Claude. Next, just answer the questions that Cowork sends you, and then from those answers, it will build out your OS for you. So first, it wants to know what you want to call your OS. I'll call it Vega. Then it asks how you want your agent to talk to you. Do you want it to be blunt, friendly, professional and direct, warm and supportive? I'll select professional and direct. Let's fast forward this bit as I answer the rest of the questions, and then I'll see you when we're done with this. Once you're done answering all the questions, it will give you an outline of what your OS will look like. And if you're happy with that, just tell it to go ahead and create that. It says it's finished, so let's see what Cowork built for us. For this, I suggest you download an app called Obsidian. It's free and it's available for Windows and for Mac. Once you download it, the first thing it'll ask you is where your vault lives. A vault is really just a folder. So for this, you'll click where it says open folder as vault and choose the folder that you created that Cowork just set up the OS inside of. And then here you can see all the files inside of that folder. We have the claude.md file and the memory.md file, as well as all these subfolders that were created for us. There's a lot you can do with Obsidian, but honestly wouldn't spend time going down that rabbit hole. It's really just a basic note-taking app that we're going to use to view what is inside our Cowork OS folder. The structure of your Cowork OS is now built out. The mistake is to just start adding folders here for things that you think you want to use it for. Instead, I would think of subfolders as workflows that you want Cowork to do for you. Let's build out a workflow together so you can see what I mean. Most workflows are going to be different for everyone and very personalized for you, but we'll start with one that I think everyone can use, which is an email triage system. Once you set this up, Cowork will be able to look at your emails, track your contacts, and draft replies. To do that, let's first come over to Claude, and you want to click on the left here where it says Customize and select Connectors. This is how you connect Claude to other apps you already use, things like Gmail, Notion, your calendar, or Canva, for instance. It will be able to both pull context from those apps and write to a lot of those apps. So click on this plus icon right here and click on Browse Connectors, and you can search for Gmail. It should pop up right here and select that one. Up here in the top right will be a button that says Connect. I've already connected mine, so it's not going to say that anymore, but yours should say connect, so click on that one. You'll then need to sign into your Gmail account and give Cowork permission to access your Gmail. Once that one is set up, we can go back and you can add any other connectors you want. So you might want to add, for instance, Google Calendar and maybe Google Drive, for instance. After connecting up at least Gmail, you can close this out and leave these settings by clicking on the top left here on this arrow. If you need to, start a new task and make sure that your new Cowork OS folder is selected. Now, I'll have another prompt for you down below. This one is for an email triage system. So same deal as before, make sure to copy this down, return back to Claude, paste it in and submit it. This will tell Cowork to scan through your email inbox to see what kind of emails you get, how you respond to them, your tone of voice, and it will build out your email system for you. So here's asking how far back should it look in your inbox to learn how you use emails. I'll just choose the last 7 days. But obviously, the longer it looks back, the more helpful this system is going to be. Cowork will then explain what it found and the different types of emails and how it thinks it should respond to those emails. If all of that looks good, you can just say it sounds good and it'll start building out your system. Great, Cowork is now finished. Whenever it creates new files for you, you'll see those files right here. They look like this, and you can click on any of them to see a preview of it on the right. Cowork also built out for you a new skill called email triage. Now, we haven't talked about skills yet, but these are repeatable workflows that you can load into Claude Cowork. So to actually save it into Claude Cowork, you want to click right here where it says Save Skill. We can now run the email triage skill by starting a new task and typing / and typing in email triage. Once it's highlighted, click on Enter, and you'll see it loaded right here. Now, if you submit that along, it's actually going to go into my Gmail and start drafting replies and updating the files it created in the email folder. Opening up Obsidian, you can see that inside the email folder, we have a lot more in here than we had before. We now have a fully fleshed out claude.md file. We have a file called categories where it lists out all the different email categories, a list of people that it shouldn't draft replies for, and even a my tone of voice document. All these files are set up to help Cowork track your emails better and to respond to them better. Now, anytime Cowork creates for you a new folder inside your OS, it will create a new claude.md file for that folder. You can think of the claude.md file that's in your top level folder as instructions that apply to your entire OS, and the ones that exist inside the subfolders as more specific instructions for that subfolder. So congrats, you have your first workflow. As you see, workflows are made up of a subfolder, a new claude.md file for that subfolder, skills, and sometimes connectors. Now, for every other workflow that you want Cowork to set up for you, you just have to tell Cowork what you want done. If you look at the prompt that I gave you for building out your email system, you can get an idea of what those setup instructions look like. But really, all you have to do is describe in conversational English something you do in your business all the time that you're hoping Claude Cowork can do for you. Here's an example of that. We'll click on New Task, and once again, we'll make sure that the Cowork OS folder is selected. And let me have it help me create a system for something I do all the time, invoicing. I don't want to have to create invoices on my own or track them myself. So let's ask Cowork to set up an invoicing system for us. And I'm not going to give you a prompt here. I'm just going to show you how I normally set up these workflows. So inside the new task, I'm going to use the microphone button to dictate to Cowork what it is I'm looking for. Hey, so I want you to set up for me a invoicing folder. And inside of that, I want it so that anytime I ask you to create an invoice for me and give you the email address of the contact, you'll go through my Gmail and find the contact, how much money they owe me. They'll also have their address in there for the invoice. So then you can draft the invoice into that folder. And I also want a way to track them so I can just go into a file in there and see who owes me what money. All right, that looks pretty good. So let's send that along and have Cowork set up our invoicing system for us. All right, so here's what it set up. It set up a tracker to track all the invoices. It, of course, set up the claude.md file and a file with all of my business information so it can pull from that when drafting the invoices. It didn't create a skill for me though, so I'll just ask it to, can you create a skill for this too? And there we go. So it's that easy. Maybe for you, it's not invoicing, but use the same principles. Just describe what you're struggling with in plain English, and Cowork will put together a workflow to help you. Once you have a workflow you love, if you find yourself asking Cowork to run it every day, set it up as a scheduled task. And this couldn't be any easier because you can literally just tell Cowork to run it as a scheduled task and it will set it up for you. So for instance, here I'm inside the chat where we set up our email triage system, and I'll just tell it, run this skill at 7 a.m. for me every day. This dialog box should then pop up. You can click on schedule. And just like that, we have that task now scheduled. If you click on the left where it says scheduled tasks, you can see all of them inside of here. One limitation of Claude Cowork is that in order for it to run any scheduled tasks, your computer needs to be on and Cowork needs to be open. That's because this isn't cloud-based. Everything lives on your computer. To access it from the go though, you can use Dispatch. If you open up the Claude app on your phone and click on Dispatch in the side menu, you can assign Cowork tasks from here, even if you're not home. It's really helpful if you're maybe at the gym or out hiking or just not at home and you suddenly have a great idea. You can just fire it off to Dispatch, and when you get back to your computer, it'll be finished and ready for you. So that's the quick setup guide for Cowork OS. Set up your folders, layer on your connectors and skills, build out a few real workflows, and then put the ones you repeat on a schedule. Do that and Cowork stops feeling like a chatbot and starts feeling like an actual assistant that handles the tedious stuff so you can focus on the work that actually matters. If you want to try it out for yourself, the link for Claude is in the description down below. Huge thank you to Anthropic for sponsoring this one. And again, if you want to go deeper on this stuff, I have all the information about my course down in the description. I'll drop a link down there if you want to come check it out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.